What if I told you something uncomfortable? One of the safest and richest countries in the world quietly helped finance one of the deadliest regimes in history. What if I told you that while Europe burned, while cities collapsed and millions fled, a small neutral nation in the Alps became wealthier every year? And what if I told you that some of the gold that built modern Switzerland came from vaults that Nazi Germany looted during the war? Welcome to the Hidden Bank. Today, we uncover how Switzerland, a country known for neutrality and peace, became one of Hitler's most important financial partners. This is not a legend. This is not speculation. This is documented history. It is written in ledgers, transfer records, diplomatic messages, and investigations made after the war. This is the story of how Switzerland became Hitler's secret banker. Europe before the flames. To understand what happened, we must return to the early 1930s. Europe was in crisis. The Great Depression destroyed economies. Banks failed. Factories closed. Millions lost their jobs. Governments struggled to pay debts from the First World War. Germany suffered the most. Inflation had wiped out savings. Businesses collapsed. Unemployment climbed above 30%. The country was desperate, and desperate nations make dangerous choices. In 1933, Adolf Hitler rose to power. He promised to restore the German economy. He promised to rebuild the military, and he promised to end the humiliation of the Treaty of Versailles. But there was a problem. Germany had almost no money, not for military equipment, not for factories, not for a modern war machine. International restrictions prevented Germany from borrowing openly. They also blocked Germany from buying foreign currency. So how did Hitler rebuild a powerful army in only a few years? The answer leads us to a small country surrounded by mountains. A country with almost no natural resources. A country known for watches and cheese. Switzerland. On paper, Switzerland was neutral. In reality, it was a financial powerhouse. It was one of the only places in Europe where money could move freely during the Depression. Why Switzerland was perfect for Nazi money? Switzerland had several advantages that made it the ideal financial partner for Germany. First, Swiss banking secrecy was unmatched. Revealing a client's identity was a crime. Bank employees could go to prison for speaking. For a regime preparing for war, secrecy was not optional, it was essential. Second, the Swiss franc was strong and stable. Other European currencies collapsed or were frozen, but the franc held its value. This made Switzerland the easiest place to convert gold into usable money. Third, Switzerland's location was perfect. It shared a border with Germany. Assets could be moved quietly by train. Couriers could cross the frontier in hours. There were no oceans, no naval blockades, no British inspection. For Hitler, Switzerland became the safest entry point into the global financial system. Germany's need for gold. To wage war, Germany needed foreign currency dollars, pounds, Swiss francs, but Germany's official reserves were almost empty. So the Nazis turned to the one asset every bank trusted: gold. Gold could be exchanged anywhere. Gold left no political trace. Gold could be melted and restamped. As the Third Reich expanded across Europe, they seized gold from national banks. They seized gold from private vaults. They seized gold from businesses. And tragically, they seized gold from victims of persecution. This gold needed to be converted into money. It needed to be cleaned. It needed to be hidden. Germany could not do this alone. They needed a neutral partner, a partner with secrecy, a partner with influence, a partner without moral questions. They chose Switzerland. Gold crossed the border by train and by truck. Some of it traveled through diplomatic channels. Swiss banks accepted it all. They did not ask where it came from. They did not demand proof of ownership. They did not question the sudden rise in German gold supply. They counted it. They melted it. They converted it into Swiss francs. That money allowed Germany to buy Swedish iron ore, Romanian oil, Italian machinery, and even American materials purchased through neutral countries. While Europe went to war, Swiss vaults filled with gold. The Swiss National Bank. At the center of the financial web was the Swiss National Bank. This was not a private company. It was the official National Bank of Switzerland. After the war, investigators discovered that the Swiss National Bank accepted more than 400 million Swiss francs in gold from Nazi Germany. This was a massive amount at the time. But the national bank was not alone. Private banks also played a major role. UBS, Credit Suisse, Swiss Volksbank, Basler, Handelsbank. These banks helped Germany convert gold into francs. They made international wire transfers. They created secret accounts. They purchased foreign currency on Germany's behalf. They moved money to Spain, Portugal, Turkey, and Argentina. And they collected fees on every operation. The war destroyed much of Europe. But for Swiss banks, it became the most profitable period in their history. Laundering looted gold. One of the darkest chapters of this story is the laundering of stolen gold. When Germany invaded Belgium, the Netherlands, Austria, and Poland, it seized national reserves. Belgium lost more than 200 tons of gold. The Netherlands lost more than 140 tons. Poland and Austria lost large reserves as well. Some of this gold was moved to Berlin, but a significant portion was sent directly to Switzerland. Once the gold entered a Swiss vault, it became almost impossible to trace. Swiss banks melted foreign bars and created new bars with Swiss markings. The original stamps were destroyed. Proof of ownership vanished. The gold became anonymous. This was not an accident. It was a system, and it was highly profitable. Even Swiss officials admitted that they could not always tell whether the gold was legitimate or stolen, but they accepted it anyway. Financing the Reich through neutrality. The world saw Switzerland as neutral. Germany saw Switzerland as essential. Between 1939 and 1945, Switzerland became Germany's main buyer of gold. Germany became Switzerland's largest trading partner. Swiss factories produced machinery and tools that supported the German war effort. When the Allies tried to buy strategic goods from Switzerland, the Swiss government refused. They used the argument of neutrality. But this neutrality was selective. They traded with Germany and Italy. They refused the same trade with the Allies. Winston Churchill complained about this privately. He said that Switzerland was the only country that profited from the war without entering it. He was right. How Switzerland helped Germany bypass controls. As the war expanded, the Allies tried to block Germany financially. They froze assets. They limited currency exchanges. They cut off trade routes. But Switzerland became the bridge that Germany needed. Because Switzerland was neutral, the Allies could not enforce the same restrictions. German companies used Swiss banks to access foreign markets. They used Swiss currency to make secret purchases. They used Swiss intermediaries to move money across borders. Switzerland allowed Germany to buy machinery and metals. It allowed Germany to acquire chemicals and industrial tools. It even helped Germany exchange gold for dollars and pounds. Without Switzerland, Germany's access to foreign currency would have collapsed. But the Swiss system kept the flow alive. Neutrality became a cover. It offered protection, and it generated enormous profit. The role of Swiss railways. Switzerland's financial support did not stop at banking. Its geography played a major part as well. Switzerland sat between Germany, Italy, France, and Austria. Its railway tunnels were some of the most important in Europe. The Gotthard Tunnel, in particular, was essential for transport. German and Italian trains used Swiss routes to move coal, weapons, and supplies. They used Swiss tunnels to move equipment quickly. These routes saved time and fuel, and they offered protection from Allied attacks. Swiss railway companies earned large fees for every train that passed. For them, war was good business. When the Allies asked Switzerland to stop allowing Axis trains, Switzerland refused. The government said stopping the trains would violate neutrality. But behind closed doors, Swiss officials admitted another truth. Stopping the trains would hurt revenue, and economic survival came first, when Swiss banks realized the truth. By 1942, Swiss banks understood exactly where the German gold came from. Allied intelligence intercepted messages from the Reichsbank. These messages showed that the gold came from Belgium and the Netherlands. It came from national vaults that Germany had seized. Internal Swiss documents from the time reveal uncomfortable details. Bankers discussed the uncertain origin of the gold. They noted that German officials demanded total secrecy. They knew the gold was being taken from occupied countries. Instead of stopping the transactions, they changed procedures. They melted the gold immediately. They removed all foreign markings. They stamped the bars with Swiss hallmarks. This erased the evidence. It removed the identity of the original owners, and it allowed the gold to enter the global market without suspicion. This was not ignorance. This was a deliberate system, a system designed to protect profit. Refugees at the border. While Swiss banks accepted gold, Switzerland closed its borders to many refugees. This is one of the most tragic contradictions in the story. In 1938, Switzerland required German passports belonging to Jews to be marked with a red letter J. This helped border guards identify and reject them. During the war, around 30,000 Jewish refugees were turned away. Many were sent back into territories controlled by Nazi Germany. Some were deported, some did not survive. The Swiss government explained its decisions by claiming limited space and limited resources. Officials argued that the country could not take large numbers of refugees, but critics pointed out a painful truth. Swiss banks had space for gold. Swiss trains had space for German goods. Swiss industries had space for German contracts. But Switzerland did not have space for people escaping persecution. This decision has remained a dark stain on Swiss wartime history. American pressure. By 1943, the United States and Britain lost patience. They accused Switzerland of helping Germany survive. They accused Swiss banks of laundering stolen gold. They accused Swiss industries of supporting the Nazi economy. American diplomats demanded several actions. They wanted Switzerland to stop accepting gold from Germany. They wanted Switzerland to freeze German assets. They wanted Switzerland to limit trade with the Reich. Switzerland refused. Swiss leaders argued that the country needed trade to survive. This was partly true. Switzerland depended on imported food, fuel, and raw materials. Germany was a major supplier. But financial documents revealed another motive. Trade with Germany was extremely profitable. Banks and industries did not want to lose their biggest customer. Neutrality became a shield that protected Swiss economic interests. The war ends, the questions begin. When Germany surrendered in 1945, the Swiss government moved quickly. Banks closed certain records, documents were archived or sealed. Gold was reorganized, but the Allies were well informed. They created the Tripartite Gold Commission. Its mission was to identify and recover stolen national gold. They demanded that Switzerland return the gold it received from Germany. Switzerland denied wrongdoing. Officials said the gold was purchased legally. They said banks could not verify the origin of every shipment. They said neutrality required equal treatment for all clients. After long negotiations, Switzerland agreed to pay 250 million Swiss francs. But investigations suggested that Switzerland had received far more than that amount. The settlement represented only a fraction of the total value. Switzerland kept the rest. The Nazi gold scandal of the 90s. For decades, the topic was quiet. Then in the 1990s, new archives opened. The documents contained evidence of Swiss involvement in gold laundering. They showed the transfer of looted gold. They revealed secret accounts belonging to victims of the Holocaust. They showed that banks often refused to return money to survivors after the war. This caused global outrage. Families demanded justice. Governments applied pressure. Lawsuits were filed against Swiss banks. In 1998, UBS and Credit Suisse agreed to a major settlement. They paid $1.25 billion to Holocaust survivors and their families. It became one of the largest financial settlements related to wartime assets. But even this amount did not cover the full scale of the profit Switzerland gained during the war. Rewriting history. In the following years, Switzerland began to re-examine its past. Government commissions investigated wartime activities. Researchers gained access to archives. New reports were released. The findings were clear. Switzerland stayed neutral, but neutrality did not mean innocence. The country made money during the war. Banks and industries benefited from transactions with Germany, and many official decisions were driven by economic interests, not humanitarian ones. Some Swiss leaders admitted mistakes. They said the country should have done more. They said history required honesty, but debates continue even today. Some believe Switzerland acted only to survive. Others believe the decisions were motivated by profit. The truth lies somewhere in between. A nation transformed by war. When the Second World War ended, Europe was in ruins. Cities were destroyed. Economies collapsed. Millions were displaced. Switzerland was different. Its cities were untouched. Its banks were full. Its industries were strong. While other countries fought on the battlefield, Switzerland fought on the balance sheet, and it won. The war changed Switzerland forever. It became wealthier. It became more influential. It became one of the most trusted financial centers in the world. But behind this success stood uncomfortable facts. Facts about gold, facts about secrecy, facts about choices made during the darkest moment of modern history. These facts would return decades later, and Switzerland would be forced to confront them. Inside the Swiss vaults. During the war, Swiss vaults held enormous quantities of gold. Some of it came from German mines. Some came from German industry. But a significant portion came from occupied nations. Belgian gold, Dutch gold, Polish gold, Austrian gold. Most of it was melted, stamped, and recast as Swiss bars. Once inside a Swiss vault, the gold lost its past. It gained a new identity, it became Swiss. This was one of the keys to Switzerland's success. Not military power, not territory, but financial control. Gold gave Switzerland influence. It gave Switzerland leverage. It gave Switzerland protection. Nations at war needed money, Switzerland had it, and everyone respected a country that controlled gold. The post-war bargain after the war, the Allies demanded that Switzerland return the gold that Germany had delivered. They asked Switzerland to cooperate with investigations. They wanted to restore national reserves taken from Belgium, the Netherlands, and others. Switzerland resisted. Officials claimed that many transactions were legal. They said the banks acted in good faith. They said that neutrality required equal treatment of all clients. But the Allies had evidence. They had documents from the Reichsbank. They had records from captured German offices. They had witness statements from bank officials. After long discussions, Switzerland agreed to a single payment of 250 million Swiss francs. It was a compromise. The Allies wanted more. Switzerland wanted to close the chapter. The compromise worked. But the truth remained in the archives, and those archives would reopen 50 years later. The new investigations. In the 1990s, new laws forced the release of old financial records. Journalists gained access to material that had been hidden for decades. Historians uncovered new details about wartime trading, and survivors demanded answers from Swiss banks. These investigations revealed the full scale of what happened. They showed the flow of gold from occupied countries. They showed the cooperation between German officials and Swiss bank managers. They showed the secrecy that protected stolen assets. One of the most shocking discoveries involved accounts created for Holocaust victims. Many accounts were frozen after the war. Some were never released to the families. Some were erased from the system. The pressure grew. Countries demanded accountability. Communities demanded justice. And Swiss banks were forced to respond. The 1.25 billion settlement. In 1998, a historic agreement was reached. UBS and Credit Suisse accepted responsibility for withholding assets. They agreed to pay $1.25 billion. The money went to survivors of the Holocaust and their families. This became one of the largest settlements related to wartime assets. It was a symbolic act. It acknowledged a painful truth. It confirmed that financial institutions had failed to protect vulnerable people. For Switzerland, the settlement was not only financial, it was moral. It forced the country to examine its values. It forced banks to revise their policies. It forced the nation to reckon with its past. The Mountain of Neutrality. Switzerland has always defended its neutrality. Neutrality saved the country in times of danger. Neutrality kept Switzerland out of conflict. Neutrality allowed trade with all sides. But neutrality also has limits. Neutrality can be used as a shield. Neutrality can hide difficult choices. Neutrality can protect profit more than principle. During the war, Switzerland made decisions to survive, but it also made decisions to prosper. And many of those decisions had consequences. Some people say Switzerland had no choice. Others say Switzerland had many choices, but selected the most profitable ones. The truth is not simple. It lies somewhere in the middle. The legacy of the hidden bank today. Switzerland is one of the richest countries in the world. Its banks are trusted, its currency is strong, its financial system is respected. But the past is still there. It lives in the archives. It lives in the testimonies. It lives in the memories of those who survived the war. The story of Switzerland and Nazi Germany is not only a story about gold, it is a story about ethics. It is a story about neutrality. It is a story about the choices nations make in times of crisis, and it is a reminder that wealth often has a hidden cost. Final reflection. Switzerland did not start the war. It did not invade nations. It did not drop bombs, but it played a role behind the scenes. A role built on secrecy, a role built on gold, a role built on profit. The world remembers heroes and villains, but history also remembers those who stood in the shadows, those who moved money, those who opened vaults, those who allowed regimes to survive a little longer. Switzerland was one of those players, a small nation with a big influence, a neutral country with powerful banks, a silent partner in a loud and violent war. Understanding this history does not erase Switzerland's contributions to peace today, but it helps us understand the complex truth, a truth that was hidden for decades, a truth covered in gold. This is the story of how Switzerland became Hitler's secret banker, and it is a reminder that in every war there is always the battle we see and the battle we do not.